Hello, and welcome to Political Fallout 2020. I'm your host, Jacob Fontenot. Well, the presidential election is over, and we're still feeling the impact. On this show, we'll talk about the major things that stood out to us in this election season. And by us, I mean college students. We know that millions of people have endured and suffered a lot this year, and college students are no different. So we dedicate this show to how we feel and see the political fallout of 2020. Let's get started. It took a week. The news became official on Saturday morning, November 7th. The winner of the presidential election, Joseph Biden. And the world celebrated, seriously, out in the streets, celebrations. Here in Vermont, we were no different. Burlington erupted into spontaneous and joyful dancing and yelling. It was cathartic for many. Europe celebrated with us as well. I guess they were watching the election closely too. So let's do a short breakdown of how Vermont voted. And it was a historic year, not just in numbers, but in the many candidates that were on the ballot. Let's focus on the presidential candidates. There were 21 to choose from this year. We had the traditional Republican and Democratic parties, but we also had progressives, independent, grumpy old patriots, and the Boiling Frog Party candidates. We have a very engaged electorate. Along with a variety of ballot choices this year, it's important to note that of the 300,000 votes cast, 2/3 went to Joe Biden. This election cycle has been quite eventful. It was actually historic. Nationally, over 140 million people voted, and in Vermont, our voting record made history as well. Up next, Ian Noyes tells us how the race for governor made history in Vermont.
On November 3rd, Vermonters re-elected Republican incumbent Governor Phil Scott, with every county in the state voting red for governor, but voting blue overall. Scott received 69% of the vote, and on the other side of the ballot, Democratic Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman received 28% of the vote. This race was unlike any other Vermont has had in years, with mail-in ballots becoming the norm. Governor Scott chose, instead of running an extensive re-election campaign, to focus mostly on the COVID-19 pandemic, and it seems to have resonated with voters. Scott had this to say about his victory from his home earlier this week.
Good evening. These are certainly unusual times. Who would have thought a year ago that the victor in the governor's race would be giving remarks in their motorcycle garage with a sum total of 3 people? But here we are. As you know, we're facing some of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. This global pandemic has impacted all of us in so many ways. Our way of life has been disrupted. There's a lot of uncertainty, and far too many lives and livelihoods have been lost. But, as I've said many times, we cannot let our guard down. And as we enter the winter months, we must remain vigilant. If we do, I'm confident we'll continue to lead the nation, and more importantly, keep our loved ones safe, our kids in school, and emerge from this pandemic faster and stronger than any other state.
Democratic gubernatorial candidate and current Vermont Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman ran a good race, but his rival had held the seat for the past 3 terms and was not ready to give the seat away so easily. Reporting from City Hall for Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont, I'm Ian Noyes.
Governor Scott will remain in power for the next 2 years. This year's election results have been highly contested due to the higher amount of mail-in voting this year. Mike Safey visited a Burlington polling place on Election Day and files this report.
The 2020 election looked quite different before the tallying of mail-in ballots began in major swing states. Although Joe Biden is the projected winner of the election, President Trump has refused to concede, citing mail-in balloting as a massive fraud scheme. According to Pew Research, 50.3% of ballots cast in this year's election were cast by mail. This is up from 24.9% in 2016. The surge in mail-in voting is due to states being more lenient as a result of COVID-19 and trying to encourage people to stay safe. A local Vermont voter, who did not want to be named, had this to say about voting by mail.
This whole mailing in thing is a bunch of fraud. It's done to get a certain agenda of people in there.
Despite the concerns, poll workers are confident that they can keep the election fair even with the abundance of mail-in voting.
The way that we handle it is the same as we would any election. Oftentimes people vote at City Hall and we get delivered ballots that we have to insert into the tabulator. It's no different than receiving absentee ballots, or it's no different than receiving mail-in ballots. We get delivered ballots and we treat them the same as any other ballot on any other election day.
Although the president has been very vocal about possible fraudulent voting, a study conducted by the Brennan Center for Justice found that the rate of voter fraud in the U.S. is less than 0.0009%. Many are skeptical of mail-in balloting due to how Biden began to take the lead once they started being counted. While some believe this to be voter fraud, the more likely explanation is how President Trump has been vocally against the use of mail-in ballots and urged his supporters to vote in person. The president is continuing to take legal action against states he has accused of voter fraud, but many of these cases are being thrown out or dismissed due to the lack of evidence. In Burlington, I'm Mike Safey.
The president has still yet to concede the election and stated on Twitter that he would not be backing down. The 2020 election has caused a lot of division within not only the government, but also in our communities. As the results of the election come to a close and President Trump still refuses to concede, we take a closer look at the political division going around all around us. A divided nation, a topic on everyone's minds as the 2020 election comes to an end. On November 7th, Joe Biden was elected to be America's 46th president, but not without major opposition from the Trump campaign and its supporters.
From all of these guys that are corrupt as hell, that we need to start bringing up, we need to start voting.
Biden supporters were out in force on Saturday to celebrate the win, while on the other side, Trump supporters were also rallying against the win. As claims of voter fraud are tossed around and Trump refuses to concede, the division within America grows stronger. Senator Chuck Schumer spoke in New York on Sunday regarding the election results, urging everyone to move on and come together to fight against COVID.
It's time to move on. The election's over. There wasn't fraud. There wasn't anything else. 6 states, swing states, flipped from Trump to Biden. Those 6 states, in each of them, the margin is not even close. No court is going to overturn this election. Joe Biden will be installed as president. So Republicans, get over it. Stop spending all your time spreading lies about the election and instead roll up your sleeves, sit down with us, do a COVID bill that New York and America needs.
America now looks towards President-elect Joe Biden to unite the people once more so that we may all move past these times and into a better future for all. President-elect Joe Biden will be sworn in as the 46th President of the United States in January. After the break, we'll talk about the challenge to the Americans' mental health in the wake of Trump refusing to concede, and we'll also look at how politics and COVID are impacting high school students. We'll be right back.
Did you see that? Whoa, we scored? Yeah, we scored. We're going to the playoffs. I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone. What? I should take your phone away. No. I'll call for a ride. Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine. I'm gonna need that back. No. Kevin!
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
I work out every day. COVID won't kill
I'm
me.
24. COVID won't kill me.
I have antibodies. COVID won't kill me.
It's been a long week. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 25. COVID won't kill me.
I'm partying outside. COVID won't kill me.
I don't need to wear a mask around my friends. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 23. COVID won't kill me.
If I haven't gotten it yet, COVID won't kill me.
I'm young. COVID won't kill me.
Famous last words. Don't let them be yours. Socially distance. Mask up, America.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett was recently appointed to the Supreme Court amid Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's unfortunate death. Who is Amy Coney Barrett? And what arguments from both sides of the political spectrum make her so controversial? Isabel Schoenman has the story.
Shortly after the national announcement of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, on September 18th, Amy Coney Barrett's name rose to prominence when President Donald Trump nominated her for the Supreme Court. Many people believe that Justice Barrett's nomination and appointment is illegitimate because she was appointed during an election year. Justice Barrett's presence on the Supreme Court has sparked much fear from the left-leaning party members, as her views on several issues lean very conservative.
Going to a 6-3 conservative majority in a country that's not a 6-3 majority country is really, really hard to stomach. Like, a lot of conservative Republicans don't want to get rid of Roe v. Wade. Like, they would like a whole bunch of limitations, but they're not about overturning it.
Women's rights to safe and legal abortion could be compromised as Barrett aims to criminalize abortion and walk back the Roe v. Wade bill. Sexual assault handlings could also face much change, as Barrett believes that anyone who commits sexual misconduct should face less repercussions. Barrett also agrees that same-sex marriage should be banned, which caused much outrage and fear from the LGBTQ community.
We have a conservative court that is pretty clear about, like, being okay with limiting the freedoms of people. Like, that to me is, I think, what distresses me most. Like, okay, I get that you want to make a moral case about when a life is a life, and at least that seems like something you can engage in a conversation on. But, I mean, imagine, like, being willing to rule on cases that say that, like, places should be able to fire you because you're trans, right? Like that to me just seems like we have decided to put humanity in different categories, and some people having less humanity than others.
Many people have noted how they fear that the United States could become much like it was when segregation was still legal and when women were not allowed to vote. Will the Supreme Court pass bills that will walk back on the progress of America? We can only wait and see what the future will bring. In Burlington, I'm Isabel Schoeneman reporting for Champlain College.
The most recent development in the news regarding Amy Coney Barrett is that she challenged several Philadelphia companies' rights to religious freedom and the acceptance of same-sex couples in matters regarding adoption. Presidential concessions usually happen within a week of the presidential projections not going their way. This election cycle, however, things have been going differently, with President Trump refusing to formally pass the presidency to Joe Biden.
After Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential race with a total of 306 electoral votes, President Trump refused to accept the results. Trump's administration and followers are backing the baseless conspiracy theory that Democrats cheated. He claims that mail-in ballots are fraudulent, despite facts saying otherwise. Even though ballots can be counted up to 9 days after the election, Trump claims that they shouldn't be counted. He wants a recount of all votes. Ever since the presidential race started, Trump refused to agree to a peaceful transition of power. Since his defeat, people close to the president have been debating who will tell him that he has to leave. Trump's refusal to concede the election is delaying Biden's access to government funds. Biden has already set up a new coronavirus task force since Trump disbanded the White House pandemic response team set up by President Obama. Some of Trump's advisors said that he will pass power over to Biden once he's 100% sure that the elections was fair, which isn't his choice to make. President-elect Biden is in the early stages of building his transition team as the 46th president.
The last time a presidential candidate refused to concede was Al Gore in 2000, where he conceded the day after the race, took it back, and then conceded again later on. The discussion about mental health is at an all-time high this year because of the election and COVID-19. Many U.S. citizens are at risk as mental health issues are on the rise, and we join Lindsay Mulligan with the whole story.
As Joe Biden was recently announced as the 46th president-elect, many around the country are able to relax for the first time, as some say, in years. The challenge is, This comes on the backdrop of so much uncertainty in so many arenas: health, business, economic, social, says mental health management expert Dr. Cynthia Ackrell. It is obvious that this year's election has caused some stress, anxiety, and mental health issues. And since uncertainty is stressful for most humans and all stress is additive, this overwhelms already fatigued coping skills, Ackrell told CNN. Mental health has been an all-time high since 2020 has started.
What do you think is most important in handling challenge and stress? It turns out it's your coping confidence, that feeling inside of you that you can handle it. But of course, in the middle of a big challenge, is that what you feel? Heck no.
According to the CDC, anxiety and depression shot up 31% since June of this year. While some fear is justified, our brains can make the threat seem closer or worse. She says, use that fear to motivate you to find places where you have control, where you can take the best care of yourself to be fit for the challenge. 2020 is almost over, but the battle with mental health is guaranteed to not end anytime soon. Remembering to take care of yourself should be and is a priority. In Burlington, I'm Lindsay Mulligan.
Indeed, these are troubling times during a global pandemic. But I want to remind you that the best is yet to come. Practice being mindful, and most importantly, take care of yourself. COVID cases in Vermont began to spike again recently, following along with the rest of the country as we move into what looks like the second wave of the virus. Vermont has seen almost 3,000 cases since the virus started, and recently 45 new cases have emerged. 20 patients are currently hospitalized with COVID-19, and Governor Phil Scott has ordered a complete stop to all social gatherings as of Saturday. And on that note, here's an update to Champlain's COVID testing. With thousands of tests done for the fall semester, our campus reported 6 cases among our community. That's great news for us. Here in Vermont, cases remained low at the start of the school year approached. High schools were allowed to reopen under new COVID guidelines implemented by the state. In-person classes would happen only 2 days a week for most students, and in the case of fall sports, much was still up in the air. Until the first week of school began, and for high school football players, the future was uncertain. Logan Chalmers has more.
For high school students, the football season would go on. The high-contact sport was altered and approved for play thanks to the new VPA guidelines for 7v7 touch football. Players would ditch their pads and wear masks to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. As far as the game itself went, running was now illegal, and players and coaches alike had to adjust to a pass-and-catch-only play style. For the CVU Redhawks, the players and coaches adjusted to the new style as centers and linebackers alike now had to learn how to play as wide receivers. The VPA guidelines also allowed for kicking and punting without returns. With all that said, the action remained high, and the VPA also allowed a regional playoffs to keep the competitive excitement alive.
COVID cases are rising with the arrival of the cold and flu season, and the VPA has announced their winter sports mandate. Both the wrestling and indoor track seasons have been canceled in Vermont. Other sports such as basketball, bowling, gymnastics, skiing, and snowboarding will take place without fans and are not slated to begin until the new year. And that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.